what if as a developer, what would I actually need to build if I wanted to say like integrate something like Touch ID or Face ID or any of these like things that use WebAuthn? What does this new function handle, and then what do I actually need to do as the developer to build on top of that to actually get that to like be a good user experience all the way through?
So as a developer, you would have to basically use these hardware, other external kind of scenarios, tokens, dongles, whatever. You're going to use these things and they're going to give you just a digital signature, an ECDSA signature that's based on this R1 curve. And so what you can do is if you have one, you can write a Clarity contract that basically validates that you do have a valid signature on this curve. And so your user flow would be something like, here's my public key, and then I'm going to be able to authenticate that the transaction that I'm sending into this contract has been separately signed by this piece of hardware. And then you can create some sort of automated flow that says, hey, I'm going to register myself on this contract with this public key, and then I'm going to interact with this contract using some sort of authentication layer, which depends on this curve. It's going to give you a digital signature based on this curve, and then the contract will be able to verify that this was in fact you who used this piece of hardware to generate this signature on this curve. And that's why we have this function.
Okay, cool. So I'll be kind of handling the actual signature itself separately. I'm just passing that signature into this function so that then I can go through, execute whatever Clarity functions I need to based on confirmation that that public key matches that signature that the person passed.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is exactly it.
So it's almost as if like the credentials that WebAuthn will be providing for users, such as the signature, public key, and whatnot. It's almost as if like that is the actual wallet for the user.
Yeah. So, when we're interacting with a Clarity contract, we have to have some sort of Stacks wallet in order to send transactions on the Stacks blockchain. But the content of those transactions can be anything. You can just throw a whole bunch of opaque data into a Clarity function and say, hey, we're going to feed you this signature. And so it's completely separate to how Stacks authenticates the wallet who made the transaction. The payload itself can be separately authenticated using this other format, and that separate signature, which would just be part of the payload of a Stacks transaction, which we call a smart contract function, would be separately authenticated. So you would have this contract that some person would deploy this contract, other people would call this contract, but the contents of what's inside those calls can use separate authentication, and that's what will be tied to these external kind of things. It won't be your Stacks wallet that's tied to your WebAuthn, to your hardware dongle. It'll be some separate wallet, or some just separate cryptographic system that's being evaluated inside the payload of these contract calls to see that you really are you to do whatever you want. This is the whole, this is why we have DeFi. This is why smart contracts exist, is because you can do anything with them. And it's just a general programming layer. You still have to interact with it using a Stacks wallet because that contract is on the Stacks blockchain. But what you put into that contract, what you're evaluating, what you're trying to say, who you're trying to authenticate to do what, that's entirely up to the developer. The sky's the limit. And now that we have these signatures, we have a whole different set of things that we can interact with. And our developers will have their work cut out for them because now they can do so much more newer and interesting things.